Episode of Feedback Friday with me, Shamim Hussein. Today we're joined by Aquila Luanga, the Director, Environment, Energy and Natural Resources. We'll be discussing the issues raised by you, our audience, and providing feedback on that. So, Karibu, Director. Welcome to this week's episode. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much.
How have you been? How's October?
October is very cold, as
Okay.
you can see, Shamim.
Yes.
I'm already struggling with some flu.
Okay.
Yeah, so that can already tell I'm struggling with the weather.
Pole for the flu, but thank you for joining us and welcome to this week's episode. So as just to begin, also for the benefit of the audience, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role as the director? What do you get to do? What does the Director of Environment get to do as the county government of Vihiga?
Okay. Thank you so much, Shamim. So as a Directorate of Environment, Energy and Natural Resources in Vihiga County, first of all, I'm Aquila Luanga. And our duty entails making sure that we conserve our environment and also sustainably manage the resources that are within our county. So that is what we do in a nutshell, including the forest resources, the water resources, the mining resources, and all this responsibility is not just about the county. We work together with the national government because you realize some roles cut across the national government and the county government, so we have to work together. Then besides that, the fully devolved function is the waste management function, which we have fully embraced, and also make sure our cleaners are always on duty to make sure that our markets are clean and people are just aware of what it entails to make sure you have a clean environment wherever we are. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you also for helping us understand a bit about what the Directorate of Environment, Energy and Natural Resources does, because that will form a large basis of the conversation that we'll be having today.
Yes.
And just to start us off, one of the key projects we have in our county is the reforestation, the greening of Maragoli Hills. And that has been a key project, and recently even when the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi was in the county, he was here to also plant a few trees. The other month the Cabinet Secretary Deborah was here and she was also part of that, and even the previous Cabinet Secretaries have been supporting this particular project. So why is this project of seeing the reforestation of Maragoli Hills important, and how far are we to achieving the set targets for that?
Okay. Thank you, Shamim, for that question. So first of all, you realize, as I started, I mentioned forestry is among our functions, and forestry is a key resource. You realize is the heartbeat of every environmental aspect, in the sense that it provides the trees provide the oxygen we need, and also that ecosystem is the source where most of our water resources come from. And besides that, it just creates the ambience that we need within our county. So in this case, when it comes to forestry, besides Maragoli, we also have the Kibiri forest, which is globally known as Kakamega forest. So a part which is within Vihiga County is called Kibiri. Now, maybe briefly about Kibiri, we are also working together with other like-minded partners, including the county government of Kakamega. We have Rhino Arc, we have KWS, just to mention a few. I may not be able to mention all of them. And we are fencing that forest to make sure it is able to regenerate and be able to, in the future, to be part of the ecotourism circuit within the western region. Now that's about Kibiri. So to come to your question about Maragoli Hills, what is most important is the fact that Maragoli Hills is was one of the most important sites. Besides being just a forest, it was also an important cultural site to some of the communities around there. But with time, it got degraded. So as a county, we realize this is an important resource which we must protect and rehabilitate for the good of the people. You realize Maragoli Hills is not a mandate of the county government. It is a gazetted forest. So we had to come together with KFS and did an MOU around 2019. And through that MOU, we stipulated what the county can do to support KFS, that is Kenya Forest Service, to be able to rehabilitate this forest. So part of the initiatives is to just be able to reforest. We were given around 100 acres, if I'm not very wrong, but I'll have to confirm that. So in this acreage, you're supposed to reforest and make sure we maintain it to a level where the forest has grown and can be able to sustain itself. And besides that, we also supported KFS to have a forest block. You realize if you are to make sure a resource is well managed, you must have an office block where you are able to undertake your administrative duties. So as a county, we supported KFS to have an administrative or office block within Maragoli Hills. And in the same office block, we also have boardroom where the communities, the Community Forest Association and any conservation group can just go there, deliberate on how they want to support the government to make sure this resource is conserved. Besides that, we realized that we also need to have a seedling bank. So we have done a county forest nursery, and also we have also had an MOU with CJPD, where they're also doing community forests around that ecosystem together with other community conservation groups to be able to make sure we have the available seedlings we need to reforestate the Maragoli Hills. Going further, just to make sure we are balancing the ecosystem and the nature-based enterprises so that people are just not conserving the forest for conservation, but they also get something out of it. We have worked together with the FLOCA program under the Directorate of Climate Change to do apiaries. That is the beehives where the community can also, once you reforest a forest, you are able to create the forage that the bees can use to produce quality honey. And so we are doing the apiaries which have been done and they are ready. So we are waiting for the first harvesting season. So the community can attest that you have already done that. That is what we have done as a government. But besides that, there are many partners who have come on board doing the same initiative. The way you've said, the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary are in the forefront to champion this. We also have partners like Kera. They have done a huge chunk of acreage. We also have Kenya Airways. They came on board. We have those are the ones I can remember for now, but there are several partners who have just come on board to make sure we walk the talk. And maybe to just clarify, some people are questioning, why are you just planting trees? We are not seeing anything coming out of it. Yes. It's not just about planting. And Governor himself was very categorical. Plant and live. He wants people to take part in the growth of these seedlings. In the sense that once you plant, you must maintain for at least 1 year to make sure the seedlings are well grown, consistent. And so every partner is required to employ forest scouts from it has fully grown to a level where it cannot be the partners, and in the process we make sure that the communities are incorporated. Now some challenges we are facing is a matter of not part of the process, but we are saying we may not be able to employ every unit. The first value chain is where the seedlings come from, and we are encouraging the community around there to do their own community tree nurseries, where if these partners are sourcing for seedlings, they can come buy from them. And it has worked for us as a county. That's where we get our seedlings. We buy from them and reforest. And also from the value chain now, in the maintenance, are there people they can propose who can maintain the seedlings adequately? Mm-hmm. So some of them have been proposed by the community, and they're the ones taking care of their seedlings. And then now maybe generally just supporting KFS, forest rangers, in maintaining the ecosystem, because it's not just about now. We may be looking at the short-term benefits, but the long-term is once the forest is well reforested, we'll be able to have a very healthy ecosystem where we can do ecotourism. Some of the communities I've mentioned about the waterfall around, a lot of things. So once the ecosystem is healthy, such initiatives will come automatically, and partners will be able to see if the community are walking the journey with the government, why can't they work with us when you do major investments?
That you've explained extensively. And one of the other questions we had communities. So I think some of the things you've raised is you have seedlings that are also done with the communities around, and there's beekeeping, which one of our previous guests was also able, from the Department of Agriculture, was able to explain how that is a key project We also see a lot of, especially where there are protected areas like the forest space, and now that we are and also the Kibiri forest is part of our mandate as a county. How do we curb this, and just apart from involve the community, how further are we going to ensure not just the importance of the forest, but are able to protect it to a point where we don't see people eating into the land of the forest?
Yes. So thank you, Shamin. Encroachment has always been an issue in every sensitive ecosystem, forest included. And what the government does is to try to create avenues where people can get the right information of the importance of conserving such ecosystems. So as much as possible, you'll find officers from the county or even KFS themselves or the partners who go out to do the conservation activities, trying to create that land, maybe for farming, maybe lack of, the way you have just said, you're looking through the whole lens. The root cause is lack of income generating activities or lack of land for farming or other activities which people are used to. So we are asking them that besides that, there's a way you can conserve the environment and the environment can still feed you. And the way you've just talked about the apiary and the tree nurseries, those are some of the nature-based enterprises we propose to the community that you can conserve the environment and still benefit from it. So you help us generate the seedlings so that we can also be able to give you something small for the seedlings you've generated, and in the process you are conserving this forest. Besides that, we are asking them that there are some sensitive ecosystems which ideally it's wrong to encroach on them, because besides that just being a law that it's wrong to encroach them, it is for your own good. Shamim, you can imagine if we did not have any forest or any trees around the county, how will our environment be like? You realize most of the counties which we call arid or semi-arid is because their tree cover is very low, and they are trying to find ways how they can increase their tree cover to make the environment just conducive for them to just live, let alone to get something. For you to be able to be productive, you must live in a very clean and conducive environment, and that's what conserving environment is all about, to make sure just your well-being, you are just good, you can be able to be productive within that environment. So we are asking communities, if you have said this is a sensitive ecosystem, do not encroach, kindly do not encroach, it's for your own good. And besides that, if you want to have some income generating activities out of the environment, there are conservational activities you can engage in to be able to get some input out of it, including the tree nurseries, the beekeeping, the agroforestry. I'm sure for those who are engaging in agricultural activities, maybe to just mention, some of them want to encroach up to the riparian area, and you're asking them, do not go up to the riparian area. There's some activities you can do within the riparian belt, things like fish farming, the appropriate water-friendly seedlings along that belt, which can give you some good ambience and still conserve your agricultural land. Because I don't want to go deep into the riparian issue, but it has also been an issue because we see the rivers are degrading. Some lands are now, the banks are now falling into the river. So we are reducing the land sizes by just being wanting to encroach into ecosystems which you should not encroach naturally. Yeah. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have, and thank you for that. Because one of the things one of the projects that you also do is a school greening program, and I think that will also not just help curb some of these issues, because it's important for us to learn when we are younger, don't do this, or this is the right way to protect the environment. And it has been a big issue that we talk a lot about the environment. So can you tell us more about this school greening program? Which schools are involved, and how has been the reception in our schools?
Thank you so much. So school green program, first of all, the way you've explained, the whole essence of doing school green program is to inculcate the conservation or environmental conservation culture among the young people. Target mostly is the school going kids who are still in a learning phase, where they can learn a lot of skills and be able to be productive when they grow up. So that was the initial idea about school greening program, and it was started around where we did a first school greening program. So in this phase, they were mostly targeting the primary schools, And the idea, when you looked around Vihiga County, we realized that most of the schools did not have boundary, or the schools were not well demarcated, or probably they did not have fences. So for trees, they serve a lot of purposes. One, they can provide the nutritional benefits, including the fruit trees. Some, they provide the boundary, the live fences when you plant them along the fences. Others, they are windbreakers. Others is for agroforestry needs. So there are various uses for trees. So in the first phase, we focus at the boundary demarcation. So we were planting them along the fences just to make sure the schools know where their fences are. And also in the process, they'll be providing shades for the pupils when they are during break time. When they, so when we were growing up, most of us liked to, during break time, you just sit under a shade and just chit chat with your colleagues. Yeah. Then also it acts as a windbreak. Yeah. So in the first phase, that's what we did. And in the process, we could be educating the pupils that this is the importance of trees and why we are doing it. In the second phase, that is in 24-25, we focused on the fruit tree seedlings, where we were now going further and saying trees can, besides offering these ecosystem benefits, they can also offer the nutritional benefits. And you are looking at the Hass avocados, the jackfruit, there are also syzygium, that is Musambarau. Those just to mention a few. So we are looking at going further and inculcating the culture that trees can also provide the nutritional benefits. So these pupils participated in, some of them participated in the tree planting activities, and some schools went further and allocated the seedlings to specific pupils to be able to take care of them. And some schools also in the process have created things we call environmental clubs. Some call them agricultural clubs. And with this, we are able to see that there's a change of culture. Some schools are now coming up and asking us, do you have seedlings you supply to us and everything? Yeah. So it's bringing some change of attitude among the school going kids, and we are feeling the program is very impactful. So we are in this third phase. Now you want to escalate further and go besides the primary schools. You want to also focus on the tertiary schools, which have bigger spaces. So we create so that you can be able to create forest blocks and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have the numbers on how many schools you've been able to
create so far? So for the first phase, there were approximately 269, and by then the schools were getting between 500 to 1,000 depending on the sizes. Really, some schools do not have adequate spaces, so you are able to minimize according to the space they have and the specifications that are required for planting trees. For the second phase, there were also around 259, and this being fruit trees, we were giving around 30 to 50, because these are high value trees and the cost is higher compared to when you do indigenous and exotic here. So those are the numbers we are sharing. And maybe to just mention a challenge that you are facing now that we mentioned, most schools do not have fences, and some schools also may not be having the guards who usually monitor the schools when the schools are closed. You realize some people were they were putting the high value fruit seedlings, and when the schools are closed and going to plant in their farms. And that's not what we expected in the program, because we want the pupils to be able to benefit so that it can be like a learning point for the communities. But if communities go inside and they're the ones uprooting, we are now derailing the efforts. And now the people will start questioning, why is this a worthy initiative if our own community cannot see the beauty in it? So those are some of the challenges we are grappling with, and that's why we are doing a lot of sensitization, onboarding a lot of conservation groups so that they can also be our ambassadors in terms of conserving the environment.
Okay. And now, Director Pile, speaking of onboarding people and involving people in different projects, we usually see a lot of cleanups being done. And one of the things that we see is that we recently had a cleanup during Mazingira Day, and one of the comments that our residents raised was that tumekata mti, tumekata cypress, you're using that to clean, and so how do we publicize such events, and how do we involve the communities? And apart from just this regular cleanups that we see, like the monthly cleanups, what more are we doing to ensure the environment is clean and beyond that? Because people tend to complain that, especially for market areas, that they're not they're not clean. And even after, apart from just the heavy traffic market days, on these other days, the markets are not clean, or that, how is the department solving some of these problems that are being raised by the residents, especially concerning now this cleanliness?
Okay, so Shamim, there's a common phrase for those who are Christians. We say cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes.
You see, the Bible already outlined that. Then came the government. I usually say sometimes that people feel the government is oppressing them, but that's not the case. Why governments come in is to create some order in any community, so that things are done in an orderly manner and people can be able to thrive within their systems. Now, so the government said through the constitution that it's a right of everybody to live in a clean and healthy environment. There are many laws which say how you can handle your waste as the waste generator, that it is my responsibility. If I eat a sweet, I should know where the sweet wrapper goes to, so that it does not affect the other person who will come where I'll be at that point. But then people feel like this is not my responsibility. They want to say that any service, now that we have governments, should be done by the government. And that's a notion we are trying to change in people. The fact that the Bible realized cleanliness is next to godliness, the government said this, and now we are the people in these spaces to create this clean environment. Why don't you work together to make sure the environment is clean? For the government, we have tried to make sure this cleanliness is achieved by us employing the cleaners, so that every day somebody will wake up some wake up as early as 4, others 6. They go up to lunch hour to just make sure our public spaces and public markets are clean. But then there's that small space where you are doing your business. Who is responsible? It's me as the business owner to make sure I have a dustbin where at the end of the day I can be able to store my waste and take it to designated collection points. Yes. But then you realize, even with that information, some people have the bins, but in the evening when they are going home, they'll dump that waste on the public space, saying that the government itakuja asubuhi yokote. You see, now we are derailing the efforts. This person left around 2 p.m. because that's what their work schedule stipulates. But then at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. when this business person leaves his business premise, throws the waste along the highway. So if you walk at some point when you could walk around Mbale, you could see that there's a lot of waste in the roads. So when our cleaners wake up in the morning, they're waking up to a huge chunk of waste. So it becomes a challenge. But you're telling these people, kindly, let's not do this. We have skips around the different public spaces. Why can't you dump them there so that we maintain cleanliness 24/7? And then also, we are telling them, if it is so hard for you to go to these spaces, we are now recruiting private sector who can now be coming. You can be paying them some small money to come just pick your waste and take it to the right places. So why can't you incorporate such people in your business plan, so that you make sure your business is also clean and very, when somebody comes to your shop, they can be able to shop in peace here. So in terms of cleanliness, that's what we are doing. In relation to cleanups, so we said, besides that, let's show people that it's not just about the cleaners cleaning. Everybody can take part in these activities. So we encourage the private sector and anybody, non-governmental entity, to just work with the government. For example, the last time during Mazingira Day, we were together with Equity Bank. They approached her, they said, look here, we want to do some cleanup exercises. Can you support us? So we told them, yes, sure. So we are supporting the private sector to be able to showcase that it is the responsibility of everybody to make sure where they are, it's clean. So in the process, people see that it's not just about the government. Anybody can do it, because schools participate, other than development partners participate, the general community participates. So the cleanup exercise is more of an awareness creation session, and also just a way of making people see that it's the responsibility of everybody to make sure where they are, it's very clean.
Okay. And when are we having the next cleanup?
So We usually have monthly cleanups. The next one is in November. When we are, most of the time we do it on Fridays, but then it depends with the partner who comes on board. So we have a schedule where we'll be approaching the partner we had identified for the month of November. Then once we are ready with the plans and everything, we can be able, every time we do monthly cleanups, actually we do the online posters where people can be informed. So people should be on the lookout on the online posters. Yeah, and anybody is also interested to participate can come to the department. We discuss how we can work together.
Okay.
Yes.
And speaking of cleanliness, which is next to godliness, as you rightfully mentioned, waste management falls closely around that. And now that people, again, we encourage people not to, dispose of waste in the wrong areas. But waste management also falls under the mandate of your directorate. And our residents often complain that, the collection points are not, waste is not collected at the right time. Is there a particular schedule that the department follows? And is it done also on a need basis? So let's say maybe in Bali, the collection points are really full up to the brim. Is the collection done much more regularly than it would have been done on a normal, on following a normal schedule? And how, apart from just encouraging people to dispose of waste at the right places, how are we also involving our own staff? Because we, as you rightfully mentioned, when I leave work, I just nikikula sweet, nikikunywa, soda, especially those in the plastic containers, I just throw it anywhere. So are we also internally involving our staff in this waste management and cleanliness project? And a lot of complaints are usually raised, especially on waste management within the county. So what are some of the initiatives that you can also tell us about that we're putting in place so that we are doing to ensure that Vihiga is a clean county? Because again, we have a lot of green area, but then when we have a lot of dirt around it, it's very hard to see that this is a clean county. So what are we doing about that?
Okay. First of all, Shamim, I don't know if Vihiga is that dirty as you put it.
Well, not dirty,
Okay.
but the way it is perceived, especially when people raise issue, is that, I will only see what is around me. And most people who raise the comments online usually say, like point X was not collected. Later. Oh, Vihiga is clean, yes.
Okay.
But now the specific areas that I would just see, then I would generalize, because as human beings we tend to generalize.
Yes.
So then I would see one point, or as I'm passing, I see this road was very dirty, so now I assume the entire place is dirty.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you, Shamim. I wanted to make it clear so that because our cleaners actually do a lot of good work to make sure our markets are very clean. So I wanted to make it clear that actually there are people who are doing the cleanliness and they're very dedicated to their work, that I can confirm. So when it comes to collection, you've talked about the skips being full. Now, do you have a schedule? Yes, we have a collection schedule. And remember, we have also employed cleaners who act as loaders. And let me start off. We have, in terms of collection, we have 3 vehicles used for collection. One, we have the compactor, we have the skip loader, we have a tipper, and a tractor which is currently on maintenance. So all these, they go 3 days in a week to markets where they have been allocated to make sure the waste that has been generated has been transported to the disposal site. So, and this schedule is written in a way that it considers areas where waste generation is very high and vis-a-vis those which are very low. So that areas like Luanda and Bale, where generation is very high, ideally every day they must be collected. So, the challenge that usually crops up is, I've talked about people not taking responsibility of their own waste. You realize today we pick, maybe for example here at Kegoe Chemist, the skip loader comes to take the skip and replaces with an empty skip. Do you know in the evening when you go back the skip will be full? And the reason is there are some estates which have not taken it upon themselves that it is me as a landlord, I should know where I'm taking my waste. So they engage some waste pickers to just come pick at night or when people are not seeing and disposing them in the skip. So it becomes a challenge. You are offloading, expecting that this is waste that came from the public spaces, but then there's a private space which brings also their waste there. Yet they could have enrolled the services of a private service provider who can just take them directly to the disposal site, so that we minimize, because you realize it's creating a lot of operational cost for the vehicles, and fuel is very expensive to manage four vehicles of such caliber. So it means at some point the fuel that we had targeted and hoped will last a month ends even before the month ends. So at some point we have to reduce the number of trips that we take, or alternatively, if a vehicle breaks down when you are maintaining, it means the number of trips that were to be taken that week have been reduced. So it creates a backlog, and in the process now we are expected to do more the following week, or have to address them as needs arises. So you realize, oh, we carried the Kegoyo skip, but in the evening it's full. Now you have to come back again, pick it. You see, so it's interfering with the proposed schedule that is there. So, and that's why you're saying the challenge is if everybody takes their own responsibility and we do things in some certain order, it makes work easier, it reduces the operation cost. We are also able to recover the valuables. The way you've said, when somebody throws the Afia juice plastic, let me talk about the institutional setup, for example. You realize in our headquarters, already there's a private person who is taking part in making sure he collects our waste, the papers and the plastics, for recycling and maybe upcycling or maybe just reusing. So it's something that if everybody took that initiative to minimize the waste that comes to the collection, to the disposal site, we'll have less operational costs, and we'll be able to recover more resources that many youths can use to get some income from it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And now that we've mentioned, especially for one of the key issues you mentioned is when people set up for the private entities, especially for landlords, when you set up your building and you do not know where to take your waste. So I just see, this is a collection point for the county, I take my waste there. So what are we doing about this? How are we approaching these landlords to tell them, these are the right avenues to do that? And if I want to raise a question, apart from just commenting online, where can I raise my issues on, this collection point is full, when will it be collected? And also for these landlords, how are we getting to them? Are there officers on the ground who are able to identify and kind of express this challenge to them? Because we are the people who bring our waste. I am the one who needs to also take care of my waste, but also we are also the ones who dirtify our environment, as you've said. So how are we approaching this new challenges? Like, do we talk to these landlords to tell them, yes, we have a new entity, but these are the initiatives in place, these are the collection times we can set for you, and how are we ensuring that some of these challenges you've also mentioned are taken care of, so that our cleaners are not seen to not be doing their job, and that we just don't see collection points filling up and it looks like they're not doing their job when they actually are doing a really good job.
Yes, thank you. So actually, thank you for that question. So already we had realized that gap and that challenge, and that challenge is not just about the residential areas, also the business community. Because now you realize if you just, maybe for example the case of Bale, if people just throw on the roads, it will end up maybe in a drainage system when it rains, for example. Like tonight it rained, so probably some waste which was left on the highway has flown into the drainage, clogging the drainages. So, and then they'll come back crying, oh, the drainages are clogged. Government, what do we do? You see? And it's just a simple thing of, if I had put my waste in the right place, the drainage will have flown, it will have been clean and be available to be able to just drain water adequately. So that is one issue we noticed. Then the other one of illegal dumping in the skips. So what we did is we realized we cannot work alone as a county. We have to work together with the stakeholders within these sectors. So we have been able to approach the different departments in line within the waste management, like public health, the municipality, enforcement, commerce, who are in charge of markets maybe, yeah, and also generally. So we have come together, we have said we cannot continue doing business as usual. We need to create some sanity where people can work in a very clean environment. So we deliberated on a few issues and realized we need now to work with the responsible community leaders. In this case, we identified, for example, if we are now piloting in Mbale, we are working together in Mbale Market Committee. We have informed them why it's important to just be responsible, giving them instances of where we have had chaos because people are not being responsible. The blocked drainages, the illegal dumping, and people complaining when we enforce the law. So they got the message, and we asked them to also create an avenue where we can meet the different business community leaders. For example, the Mitumbas, they also told us the landlords have leaders. We met them, we told them the same information. So as we speak, most of these executive market committee leaders are aware of what the county expects of them in relation to waste management and responsibility as a waste generator. So why we did that is because we realized sometimes you can just enforce, because several times we have impounded carts which are doing illegal dumping and the people complain. So we said, let's reverse the wheel. Let us tell them what is good and why it is important to do this before we now start enforcing officially. And in the next few days, we may start to enforce. And we don't want people to say we did not tell them that it is important to stay in a very clean environment and be responsible of your waste. So that if we start the enforcement and maybe we end up taking you to court, because the law provides for a provision where if you do not you are not responsible for your waste, you can be taken to court and be charged. So we don't want to reach there before we tell you how you can do it. And we are asking all landlords that now that we have private people who are interested, for example in Mbale, we have a guy called Collins who is the owner of Fastcom Limited. He has been supporting our headquarters and also some residential areas in collecting the waste. We also have somebody else called Elan Corp Limited. He's a waste handler who is interested in making sure just the county is clean and be able to recycle or recover what is recoverable from the waste. And he has tried going around to tell the landlords and maybe the institutions, but they're not willing to be onboarded in the system. So you see, there's somebody who wants to offer the solution, but people are somehow rigid. They do not see the need of why we should do this. So we are trying to tell them there are people who are willing to solve this problem for you. Kindly be willing to be onboarded on such solutions so that you can move together. So that next time when we come to your place and we ask you where are you taking your waste and you not show us where you're taking your waste, you'll be legally liable and you'll not complain because already you have the information, you have the solutions available. It's only that why are you not being responsible? Yes, because we are actually our compliance officers and enforcement officers have received a lot of complaints in relation to illegal dumping and also sometimes even the wastewater. Some people just release to the environment. We try to enforce them, people want to do some shortcuts, but we remain firm. We tell them, no, this is what the law says. Kindly, let's just work together for the good of other people. Yes.
Thank you for that. And to our audiences, we encourage you, tafadhali tafuta your landlord leader or whoever is in charge of your market or your area to know where you should properly dispose of your waste. And if you have any further questions, continue asking them in your comments. We'll take a short break. Welcome back to this week's episode of Feedback Friday. Today we're speaking with Director Aquila Lwanga, who's giving us feedback to the questions that have been raised on the Department of Environment, and specifically looking at the Directorate of Environment, Energy and Natural Resources. And she has explained to us some of the issues that have been raised, with one key issue being waste management. So to those who ask questions on waste management and cleanliness, Director Aquila has been able to answer that. And thank you again for joining us today. As we continue our conversation, one of the other areas that we have that is, a key income generation area is sand harvesting. So what can you tell us about sand harvesting in Vihiga County, and how does your department support, your directorate specifically supports this?
Okay, thank you. So Shamim, when it comes to sand harvesting, there are two key areas where sand is harvested. One is in the river, which some people believe is the most quality sand.
Yes.
Then there's the on-farm sand harvesting. For Vihiga, what is most rampant is the on-farm sand harvesting. And we have had a lot of complaints emanating from the sand harvesting sector, where people have said, somebody just came and started harvesting the sand without my knowledge. Or perhaps an accident has happened in the sand harvesting sites. We have had a lot of incidences where even the national government administrative offices have approached us, or they have tried to address them, where you find even some school-going kids doing the sand harvesting. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that we have had incidents where lives have been lost when people are harvesting sand. And when you look at the bigger picture, you start asking yourselves, yes, sand is a very good resource. It's something that anybody who does not have an income generating activity but has a sand resource within their locality can easily engage and get something for the day. But then if you compare the benefit of getting a livelihood and the social impacts we are seeing, the environmental impacts where lands are now, we have the landslides, if I may call them, where now they are now sinking. Today you started harvesting sand here, the following day you realize your farm has sunk, so you can no longer do agricultural activities. So you wonder, is it really very necessary to engage in this activity? And if you must engage, we cannot say that sand is not important. It's very important, because it's serving a lot of sectors, especially the development sector. There's no building that can stand without sand. And that's an issue we are grappling with as scientists, or maybe the environmentalists. Can we get alternatives for sand which can support this sector? So to date, the people, I can say the engineers say there's no sustainable solution which can be used as an alternative to sand. But there are alternative technologies that can be used in building in replacement of sand. And some people find that to be very costly. That's why most builders resort back to sand. So based on research and what people say is that Vihiga, we are endowed with very quality sand. And we are serving counties like Kisumu, Kakamega, even Nandi. So everybody comes for sand within our county. And we realized in the process also, these sand harvesters are being manipulated. Today I buy maybe sand, a truck, a sand harvester or a sand transporter will come with a lorry, pay people 1,000 to just load, or maybe pay people 1,000 to fill that rolly. Like you cannot equate what the people have done to how much they are being paid. They're not getting what is good and what they deserve when they're doing the sand harvesting activities. So with all this realization, we realize no, we cannot continue business as usual. We need some kind of policy to just guide the sector, to make the sector formalized, to make sure people benefit from what they are doing, but at the same time they are conserving the environment. And with the directive as given by the governor, we were able to develop a sand harvesting and management policy. Already it's a draft, which at some point somebody was asking when you were validating, where are the real sand people? Why are they not incorporated in the validation process? But Shamim, what we did, before we even settled on saying these are the policy measures we should put in place, we went around during the the committee, you know, you have to use every opportunity to make sure you get the information you need. So we mapped out areas where sand harvesting is rampant. When we are having our basic awareness creation sessions, or when we are receiving complaints, or when maybe we are meeting the committees through the county commissioner. So you have to have the eye of everybody, just critiquing and saying, well, was this well done? And also some external experts who have worked with sand harvesting counties like Makueni and Kilifi to just tell us, is this policy really speaking to what is the overall objective about sand harvesting globally, nationally, and even regionally? So we were able to walk that journey with the various players and came up with that policy. And once it is approved by the cabinet, we are hoping before next month ends, we'll have approved the policy. We'll share it out again to the public for them to just understand and familiarize themselves with it. Then now we start the actual enforcement. However, notwithstanding, every time we get complaints about sand harvesting, we try to enforce them. And maybe to say there are some people whose lorries have been impounded. If I want to tell you, there are some people whose lorries have been impounded where we have put stop orders and they are still harvesting sand. So I can say we are already enforcing the law, besides the policy not being in place at the moment, just for the good of the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what are some of the key areas that this policy will help, apart from just managing the way we do our sand harvesting? What more will now with this policy, once it is hopefully approved, how will this further support the people, especially these people who do sand harvesting? What more will it do for them? How will it also enable your work to much easier and much more efficient, apart from the ones you've just mentioned?
Thank you. So now let's talk about, first of all, maybe I forgot to mention the key area which informed all this policy. If you look around the county, there are two places where sand is mostly harvested. Around Isako, this side of South Maragoli. Then on the upper side, we have the Kaimosi site. So that's where most complaints we have been receiving. Now, when it comes to how it will benefit the people, already I've mentioned the fact that the sector is not formalized, they're being manipulated, and they're not getting the benefit out of that sector. So once we formalize the sector, and be able to zone out that these are the best places where we can harvest sand without affecting the community massively, we'll be able now to put this, ask the associations to onboard as many people who are dealing in sand, the people who do the actual harvesting, the people who are doing the transportation, the people who are selling, any other person. As long as you're dealing in sand, you must be in that association, so that you all agree this is the sand from Vihiga and we will be able to sell at this price, at this quality. The people engaging in sand harvesting, you must provide the PPEs for the people working there. If there are people who are doing massive degradation, they must be able to give back to the community through CSR. For example, if you're harvesting somewhere where there was a spring, but you're not saying it's a good idea to harvest where there was a spring, but perhaps you happen to find a good resource somewhere where there was a water resource, or maybe there was some good community resource. We must be able to provide an alternative solution of where they can get this resource. But all above all said, we want to make sure that first of all the sensitive ecosystems are conserved, and we do not have a lot of negative social impacts, like school-going kids going to harvest instead of going to school, or impacting social amenities where people get the social services. Okay.
So what you're saying is we'll have specific guidelines to determine how sand harvesting and quarrying is done,
yes.
and also to further support the communities where this is done.
Yes.
And now closely related to sand harvesting is mining. So what can you tell us about this particular sector in Vihiga County? What do we mine, and do we need to license mining areas, and how is this done? Do I just wake up tomorrow and if I believe somebody said, my neighbor said I could have gold somewhere, I start mining. So how does that process work in this
Okay.
county?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shamim. So for the mining sector is guided by the National Mining Act of 2016. And there are some minerals which are categorized as, what shall I say, high value, like the gold, the granite, maybe some areas we have also the, like in Kwale we have what, there's a lot of minerals which are high quality.
Yes.
Then there's the low value, which I've already talked about, the sand, the stones, the maram, the ballast. So ideally, all these minerals are guided by the Mother Act, the Mining Act.
Yes.
But to a great extent, the high value minerals, the gold and the likes, are more managed by the national government, if you look at the Mining Act. And what the Mining Act says, if I'm to do, for example, mining of gold, which you're talking about, you must apply for a license from the Ministry of Mining and be licensed. And before you are licensed, you must do an EIA, or an environmental and social impact assessment, to show what are the potential negative impacts this activity will have and how you purport to mitigate them. Besides that, you must have some land consents where you intend to go do the mining. The community around there, or the owners of the minerals around there, in this case, for example, if you have gold, the way you have gold in Vihiga,
yes,
an investor engaging in mining should come to the county, get the consent from us, and also the communities around there. So we are the ones to say, actually, we approve this investor to go ahead and do that, and also make sure just the needs of the community are taken care of. Now, with all that in mind, I can confirm in Vihiga we have gold.
Yes.
We also have the granite. We had reached some level with granite, but I don't know.
Yes, with the factory.
Yes,
you can tell us a bit about what happened to our granite factory.
No, I don't want to preempt a process which at some point it went to the courts.
Okay.
Yes, but it was based on for me, I came here in 2024, but based on the information I've gathered, it was a good project, which it was almost being implemented, but some issues happened.
Okay.
So those are issues which are with the court.
Okay.
Now, you've asked about gold. So what is it for the county? We have a lot of gold resource, and the challenges we are having is the fact that there are associations, or what shall I call them, the cooperatives for gold, which are taking care of the artisanal gold miners. There are different categories for gold mining. The artisanal ones, who use crude means, then the small scale, who at least are advanced with some machinery, then the large scale, who have comprehensive machinery and everything. So for gold, you have a lot of artisanal small scale miners, and the small scale, and a few like the large scale who have shown interest, like the Shanta, and some people are yet to approve. So there have been a lot of issues that permission to get the permit to mine gold is through the national government. But then if you were to permit people to mine, they call it the cadastre. That block is so wide that if a large scale miner went to be permitted, if he gets just one cadastre or one block for mining, he'll end up getting almost most of the parts where many artisanal miners are. So if an artisanal miner wants to get the permit, automatically they're knocked out, because already somebody has been licensed within that area. And those are some of the challenges that artisanal miners are grappling with. And besides that, the other challenges which we are seeing, which are environmental related, people not having the PPEs, people harvesting even in areas where you feel like the mining pit might sink. And you have had some accidents where the mining pits have sunk. And as a county, we also put in some, we are calling it there's a group of people we put together to make sure just the well-being of the miners is upheld, and they're doing the awareness creations and everything. So there are a lot of challenges with the gold mining sector which are grappling with, but you're working closely with the regional mining officers to make sure we address them.
Okay.
Yes.
And thank you. And also to encourage the people who are involved in mining, always ensure your safety. And if you're not sure, the department and the directorate of with which you work, one of your key mandates is natural resources, is always willing to provide information, and you can always reach out to Director Aquila and her team. And just now, as we conclude, as a final question, another key thing that your directorate has is a eucalyptus management policy. So you can tell us what that is and how that supports the work that we do and benefits our people, and also just a bit about the solarization process as the solarization project in the county as we conclude today's episode.
Okay. So for eucalyptus, also another issue we noticed. Besides having a large tree cover, you realize most of them may be eucalyptus, which are along sensitive ecosystems like the wetlands, the rivers, and in forestry, we encourage tree planting and tree growing, but not. You must be guided, but by where can I plant which species. So for people, since that eucalyptus is very lucrative in terms of returns, they plant it everywhere, and sometimes people even use it as a way of encroaching on sensitive ecosystems like wetlands for farming. So the policy now will outline how we can do proper eucalyptus management to make sure we get the benefits out of it, but still protect the sensitive ecosystems. That's about eucalyptus in a nutshell.
Yes.
About energy, now, as a county, we have realized there's a lot of cost that goes in just operating. Like, if you have to succeed in any business, you must have proper energy supply. Even as a government, if you have to succeed in offering your services, you must have proper energy supply. So, ideally, we have been working, for example, in water sector, we have been working with fossil fuels, the generators, and now we have now transitioned most of them to electric. But now the challenge with the electric is the bills. It's now affecting the operational costs, and now sometimes the instability of the electricity, when it goes off, it means water cannot be pumped. So with all these realizations, we said no, we cannot continue working business as usual. We need to find alternatives of onboarding our various projects and services to green energy or the renewable energy. So at the moment we have an MOU with REREC where we are trying to transition most of our major water schemes to solar. At the moment they are being run 30% by solar, but it's not efficient enough, because now if it's just 30% which is in solar, the major 70% which is on electricity is making the system not to be very efficient. Then we have the solar, the street lighting. You realize for any city or any urban center to thrive, you must have street lighting, ideally 24/7 for people to thrive. So there are some areas we had already done through commerce, the street lighting, but anchored on the electric energy. But then the cost, you realize some lights are not working because the cost now inhibited them. So you are trying to transition them to solar energy. Then also you look at the health sector. For example, our VCRH, the costs are very high, or the level 3, the costs are very high. So what we are doing, we are trying to transition them to solar. And I can say Hamisi, for example, they have already tried to transition some of their functions on solar lighting, and they can see they are a little bit productive. So, so what we are saying, a solution for us to be able to thrive, we need to consider moving to more reliable energy supply. Because if any investor is to come to our country, for example, we have a land in Luanda South. If somebody is to do a massive recycling plant, the first question will be, where is the energy supply to make sure my production is consistent? So those are some of the discussions we are trying to see. Are there partners who can support us to at least move to the renewable energy so that we can attract more funding and proper services to our community? So I think that's what I can say about energy. I hope I've not forgotten anything that you asked.
No, you haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. And thank you, Director Aquila Lwanga, who has joined us. And as we are concluding this interview, tumepata a few results and they say mvua ni baraka. So thank you, Director. Umetuletea baraka. So we continue encouraging you to ask your questions. And today we've been able to answer a couple of questions that have been raised by you, our audiences. Thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you again next Friday. And thank you to our crew who has been behind the scenes ensuring that we run this smoothly. See you next week.